Hello everybody, welcome back to the workshop. So today I'm going to be making and forging a chased acanthus leaf. Now, this chased acanthus leaf, you can do a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different ways to make an acanthus leaf. Really, an acanthus leaf is just an elongated leaf that has a lot of flutes and fullers and veins on it. It's just, once again, it's an elongated leaf. I've got one here that I made previously. Decided I didn't like where it was going. It basically didn't turn out. And then I got one on the other end of this bar here that turned out a little bit better. Again, just a little different styling, but it's not quite what I'm wanting still. So I'm going to go ahead and forge one up out of some 3/8 inch square bar, and we're going to see how this one comes. So I'm going to bring you all along for the journey, and thank you all for watching. So as this thing comes up to heat and finishes absorbing this heat here from the fire, I wanted to take a quick minute to take and mention that if you guys like this video, remember to leave a like on it and comment what you thought down below. This really does help us in the search algorithms and stuff here on YouTube and helps the channel grow, and for Jessica and I to continue to do what we like to do, which is help support the blacksmith community out there with tutorial videos and educational resources, like over on our website, blacksmithpdfs.com. I'll put a link to that down in the description down below. That is a website where you can find all sorts of helpful information on blacksmithing. You can find power hammer plans there for my main shop power hammer. You can find all sorts of other power hammer plans and tooling plans and bundles and specials. And also here, additionally, we have added some e-courses and e-books around the subject of business and blacksmithing if you have any interest in taking this hobby into becoming a business. So be sure to go check out that website if you get a chance. So I'm going to pull this out, and I'm going to start with about 4 inches of this 3/8 bar sitting on the anvil. And we're going to flatten this out on the diagonal. We already put a point on the end. And we're just coming down with just straight up, full face hammer blows. Again, right now I kind of want to leave those edges a little thick. I'm not trying to spread too much right now. I'm going to straighten it up. Don't try to do too much at one go. Take another heat on it. So I'll take one more heat here. I'll be back with you. Okay, so now you guys can start seeing that form. We're still using the flat face of our hammer, and now that we're getting a fairly decent thickness here and spread, we're actually going to start using the peen of our hammer face here to try to start moving some more of this material away from the center and just get a little more spread action here. I needed to spread this quite a bit first in order for the peen of my hammer to fit on it and it not be like a balancing act. Riding something a little smaller and trying to spread that. That would have not worked as effectively. that heat was mainly just planishing things up. And also, you might notice that I went at a much lower heat to take and spread that out. I am not trying to make this too thin, because I'm going to have to put in some butchered lines and some fullered lines in here. And if you make this too thin, and then you try to come in and butcher in some lines and fuller out some lines, what's going to happen is you're just going to cut clean through the piece, and we don't want that. So I left this at about a 1/16 of an inch thick. I apologize for those of you who like metric. I do not have on me what a 1/16 of an inch is. Actually, that's about an 1/8 inch thick instead of 1/16. Excuse me there. Yeah, it's an 1/8 inch thick. So I left this about an 1/8 inch thick, and it's approximately 1 inch wide. So 25 mil wide by 1/8 inch, whatever that is, in thickness. And, you know, there's about, it's drawn out now to about 5 inches long. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned up. What I will do is I will actually, before I go any further, so this is about as far as we're actually going to forge this. The rest of the work is going to be done mostly cold, and we'll be doing it right here at the anvil still, but most of it will be done cold, with some cold work here. And then we will turn this into the acanthus leaf we all know and love. Now that we've let this piece cool, and I took a little bit of the scale off. I took this over at the belt sander, and I just kind of took some of the heavy scale off, and a little bit of the forging marks. This isn't super critical that we get all this off right now, as I'm just doing this as a demonstration. You can make this as clean as you like. But now the time is come where we need to take and draw out our design on this piece. Now, in this particular piece, I'm going to do something more like a Timelapse-esque piece, where I put a long center rib. So I'm going to draw out this long center rib here. Draw it out nice and long like, with a little bit of kick out at the end, just to give it a little bit of flare out at the end back here towards the base. Hopefully you guys can see that there. And I will come from the other side of that. Draw it again. Long center rib. Now if this is a little off-sided or something like that, you don't have to worry about that too much, because you can correct a lot of that once you start pushing that center piece around as you're chasing this piece. So don't get too excited about it if it's not 100% perfect there. So we're going to draw that right on out like so. So there's the center. There's the center portion. Now this is the point where it's going to start differing from the way that Tom Latney would make his leaves. His leaves would basically be a flow. You kind of want everything to flow forward, and and then there would be kind of some back notching and some little bit of work to be done. I've got another video on doing that, and I'll put that somewhere up here, a link there, if you want to see some of my other previous chased acanthus leaves. So this one we're going to just take and draw out a little different design, and we'll see how well we can pull this off. So I'm going to start by drawing kind of semi-scrolls, if you will, up in a progressive like fashion. And now, honestly, you can do whatever you would like here. Do whatever it is that would float your boat. Again, acanthus leaves are just more of a stylized thing, so they are not that critical, per se, on how exactly you go about taking and drawing them in. So I'm only going to draw in one side of the leaf, and then I will show you guys. That way you don't have to watch the whole thing, and then we will go ahead and start chiseling this in. So now the trick is how do we want to take and make this leaf? Well, I'm going to bring out each one of these pieces like this, forward. And this will become apparent here once I start actually chiseling this off. You might be able to start seeing it now. It's kind of hard to imagine in 2D. Trust me, this will make sense once I actually start working on it. Right now, it may not look like a whole heck of a lot's going on here, but you will like the way this looks, I think, once I get it done. So that there, we're going to chisel down through those, if you will. And that's going to start marking up our acanthus leaf. Again, no right way, wrong way. You guys can do what you like. You can add more of these little curly cues in between if you want to, and make the leaf more wild looking if you like. Well, basically have more veins in it, if you will. Or you can make it like I'm doing here. Either way, the choice is yours. So in here I'm just drawing out what each little individual veined portion is going to look like. And as I'm looking at it here, it's probably very difficult to tell how that's going to look. It'll make more sense once we do some chisel work to it. So I'll finish out drawing the other side of this leaf, and then we'll go over to the anvil and we'll get started. So let's go ahead and start making a little bit more sense of this now. What we're going to do is we are going to come through this with a butcher tool. This is a butcher tool. It's a single beveled butcher tool. We're going to go through this. I'm not going to make you guys watch this whole process, but basically what we need to do is we need to push the material away from the center ridge, so this way we can dome it over and make it look round. So we're going to come in here, we're going to start at the tip, and we're going to work back towards ourselves. Now these are called chasing tools. They're made really short and stubby, and they're done that way so this way they can take up some heavy abuse from the hammer blows over a lot of time without deflection. So you just have to take your time. This is a fairly slow process, but the end result is totally worth it. In the end, I should say. Now this is where something like a treadle hammer, although me not being a very big fan of a treadle hammer, would come in very handy for doing chasing work like this, because it's very it's time-consuming work. It's hard on the hands, you know, holding stuff and arms after a while. So just having a treadle hammer that you can just kind of treadle with the foot a little bit and add a little extra thumping action would really be a great handiness at this time for this type of work. Once you get all the way to one end, you come back and dress up this line. Just like so. You can see it got a little wavy. It wasn't quite straight. There's a few areas I was off. That's okay. This is all going to end up getting straightened out in the final product. Don't worry about that too much. We're just trying to focus on the center ridge, getting it started. So there's that. So I'll go ahead and start on the other side now. And go right on through. And we'll do the same thing as before. We're just trying to push that background away. And I won't make you all watch all that. I've got it started. I'm going to go to a time-lapse mode real quick of me chasing in this line, and then we'll move on to our actual little side leaflet portions, or the side veins. So as you can start to see in the time lapse, I basically switched up to using a curved butcher, just like so. It's got a leading edge that runs to the outside, and it's got an inside depression. And I just use that to cut in my vein lines right here to give my separation of my petals in the video. And then I also went and added two other things. Now I wanted to show you this back part here because this is basically what I'm going to replicate all the way up through the leaf here. So here on the back side, I used a round tool right here, just a little ball peen kind of like tool, texture tool, and I hammered in 2 depressions on each side to give the lobes out the front side, okay? And then I came in with a much smaller little tool here. Let me see if I can find it. Yep, right here. So this one's like 1/2 inch. This one's like 3/8 or so. Or no, this one's 1/4 inch and this one's 3/8, sorry. Inch round ball punches. And then I came in here and I added these little divots in there. Again, this is, you can go a little bit whimsical with this if you'd like. Just, you know, take everything down in stages. Just keep working this in stages until you kind of get the result that you want. You may find that you're not getting the result that you wanted, and that's okay. You can just take time and try it and go at it again at some point. So for this, we're just going to work in here and start trying to push out a little bit of a divot. Okay? We're just trying to get this to get some shape into this outside leaf, if y'all can see that there. We're just trying to get some shape into that outside leaf. So we're going to go ahead and just keep hammering on that until it looks good. Again, no really right and wrong here, just what looks good. And we're going to come directly across from that, find the same place on the other side, and we're going to drive that down as well. And we just keep working this piece. And just kind of working our hammer blows to the outside edge until we get a really nice clean depression that looks just like the other side. And just like that, we're just going to continue that right on up. Then after we've got that portion done all the way up, then we'll go to using these tools here. And these will be right at the back side of the curve of these little vein lines. We're just going to aim right into the corner, drive it back a little bit, and then we're going to just drive these down and home. Again, these give the front of the leaf just a little more visual interest, if y'all can see that there. And that's what we're doing. We're just manipulating the material around, the metal around. And you'll see how all this comes together once you put the final heat into this piece and texture. You'll see how all this comes together. Time for another time lapse. Okie doke. So now that we've got that done, as you guys can see, I'm not actually going to chase this up into a center ridge. There's just not a whole lot of material here, and I don't really want to move around with this too much more. But you guys can basically get the point. I should have left this a little thicker to start with. This way I could get a lot more dimension. In these type of chased acanthus leaves, you want to leave a good amount of thickness and then, you know, thin that out as you go along and as you forge in and chase in different details and using fullers and things like that. And that's kind of like the indicative of kind of Tom Latané's style. But of course, that's all up on you. You guys can kind of choose how you would like to take and do things. So now that we've got those impressions in the back, that causes the bulges out the front, then we've got these little dots here, again to add some more visual interest to the individual petals of the leaves. Now we're going to take and add just one more step of interest, and we're going to put a little crinkle in each one of these leaves. So the way we're going to do that is we're actually going to lock this in the vise. I've got a pair of copper jawls in the vise right now. So I'm going to give that a good squeeze. Make sure you get it good and tight. Hold on. And we're going to take a small ball punch again. Now this is the 1/4 inch ball punch. We're going to go right here in the edge, and we're going to aim at that lobe that we created on the back side. We want to add a little bit of crinkle. And now as you drive that in, that's going to create a mark. And I'll take this out just long enough to show it to you guys here. Now you guys can see how it's given that a lot more expression. So it went from this where it just kind of slipped in there, and we're giving this a little bit more expression as we go along. We want to do this throughout the whole piece, and we want to do it fairly evenly. So you want to work one side a little bit, and then you want to come in and do the other. Try not to bash your fingers, because that hurts. Now don't get too crazy with this. Just go a little bit at a time. And at this point, you may end up finding that you're going to have to, if this feels like it's getting really solid and the metal's not wanting to move and it's starting to want to kind of splinter on you, you'll notice that it'll feel like it's ragged at the edges and things. You may want to reheat this or anneal it. Let it cool softly and slowly in the ashes of the fire. Then pickle the material and prep it again to go again. At this stage, you don't want to risk ruining something that you've spent this much time into so far. So it's little details like this that can really up the ante, so to speak, on a piece. That makes it just an ordinary leaf and turns it into a wild leaf. Don't get too carried away. Did 2 on that side. Again, that gives it a little more flair. Then we're going to flip it over. We're going to do these 2 on this side. Just keep turning it back and forth. The reason for this being is that this piece is going to want to bow in the direction that you're hitting it, and so on and so forth. So as you hammer down in here, it's actually going to want to bend this away because you're concentrating all your blows on one part of it. Again, try to give it as many whacks as you did the other side, or at least make the divots look roughly the same. And this is going to give the leaf a lot more visual interest, as it's already doing. And we just continue right on around. If you just do one side and then flip it, your leaf will curve on you. So be careful of that. It'll be very tempting to do that, but I highly suggest against it. And we'll flip it. So you just keep working this piece exactly like this until you get up both sides. Alright, much like so. So you guys see how it turned out. We'll come over here a little bit more, give that just a little more juice there. And we'll be ready to heat this thing up and do the final shaping. Okay, now we're going to use this ball peen here, and we're going to sink this into a swedge block. We're going to start with a shallow swedge block, and we're going to hit this from the back side, and we're going to hit it directly in the center. Now you can use a shallow grooved cross peen. We don't want to cut up this whole side or anything. You just want to push it down into the bottom of the swedge block. We don't want to go crazy with this. We'll take one more heat, and we'll come into this deeper swedge block, and then finally into this last swedge block here before we give this leaf its final shapes. We'll get one more heat on that. You don't need a real hot scaling heat on this. You need it just to be hot enough where it may produce some scale, but it doesn't have to be, you know, nuclear hot here. We want it to be a decent temp for bending, so probably a dull orange to a really bright red. is all you really need at this stage to get this bin done, and just take multiple heats. So we'll go over here into the deeper block. We're not trying to beat out the detail in the front, we're just trying to beat it down to where it touches the block. And now we'll go in for our final heat, and we'll go into here. A ball peen works nice for this because it doesn't have any edges to the front or the back that can leave galling on the back side of the leaf. Take this up this final bit. Heat. And we'll be good to go. Let's finish this heat up here. Go. Now we'll go right in to the deepest block. If you were lucky, you didn't end up giving any galling on the front side. And now we've got ourselves a bit of a domed leaf there. Now we'll give it its final shape by giving it some more curve in this direction. And then finally a flick out to the front, a curl around that direction to finish it off. Alright, now to give it that curve, we're going to hold it up off this wedge just a little bit, and we're just going to keep tapping on it. So we're just going to give it some tapping. We're trying to get it to maintain that shape still, but we want it to roll up on us. Yes, curve. Now you have to over exaggerate this curve a little bit because the next curve is going to take some of that back out. So you want to over exaggerate a little bit. Be careful to hold the piece nice and square and true, because if you do not, what will end up happening is you'll get a twist to it. We got a little bit of that going on, but we can take that out in the next heat or so. We'll get another little heat on here. We'll put that little reverse curve into it. Alright, now we're going to take and curve this over the bick of the anvil. Start about 2 inches back or so on this piece and work towards the front. Like I said, this is why you want to over exaggerate the curve, because it's going to take some of it out. Now you can go whatever you like with this, do however you like. I'm going to curve mine up quite a bit here, curl it over. Unless you have put a good amount of texture, or you put something on the back side, I wouldn't completely roll this over. It may look awkward to see the back side of the piece, but you can be the judge on that. Again, there's no real right way or wrong way to do this. This is really up to you. But as you guys can see there, hopefully, we're in shot. Looks like we are. As you guys can see there, it is a pretty interesting looking leaf, to say the least, that you can add to your stuff. Now, all you have to do is to give this a straighten. You can just give it like that, and now it's a nice little finial that can go on a door knocker, or who knows what you're working on, gate railing piece, whatever. Whatever tickles your fancy, you can use this for. But I hope you can see how a little bit of chisel work, playing around with stuff, toying around with a few things, a few chisel lines and stuff, can really give you a lot of interest on what otherwise would have just been your plain old flat leaf. So that's going to be it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy what Jessica and I do here on this channel, and you would like to take and help support this channel and everything we're about, inspiring blacksmiths and to undertake businesses and do all sorts of good stuff, getting started in the field, both beginners and advancements alike. If you'd like to take and support that, I encourage you to go check out our website at blacksmithpdfs.com. As always, thank you all so much for watching. God bless you, and we will catch you on the next one.